Tengo el honor y el agrado de presentar a nuestra querida Bibiana Bistrich. Ella es médico, internista, emergentóloga, es maestra y terapeuta en terapia de vida pasada, escritora, nos ha dejado un bello libro que ha salido hace muy poco, terapeuta transpersonal, fundadora y directora de Espacio Conciencia, miembro, fundador y ex secretaria general de la Asociación Argentina de Terapia de Vidas Pasadas, máster en Cábala, facilitadora de respiración holotrópica. Nos acompaña hoy desde Italia. Bienvenida, Bibiana.
Welcome, Bibiana. Hi, Patrick. How are you? Thank you for the presentation, for the introduction. Nice seeing you. Okay, I don't know how long do I have. I know we're a little late. I don't want to take time from my colleagues who are going to talk later, but it doesn't matter, Bibiana. Okay, thank you very much then. I don't know if I can start. Okay. The idea of today's proposal is a little change the vision. Sometimes we're focusing on our patient. That's really okay. We need to know what's happening to them so we know them better. But I want us to focus on ourselves as therapists, to take care of ourselves, which is something that sometimes it's not seen or forgotten. I want to thank HTV for the invitation.
First of all, I want to thank HTV.
I'm
I really feel honored to be sharing a little bit of my work,
about
a little
my
bit
job
of the
and
vision
of
of
TVP in regards
also
to
Gala, because it's very hand in hand.
They go hand in hand.
I prepared a presentation, a PPT, that if it's possible to be able to share,
if I can share,
I would greatly thank you. The idea is to get to know a little bit more about what is going on with us as therapists
in the context
of the session. More so than what we can perceive consciously through our senses and our feelings. A lot more things are happening, but not only will this occur
not only going to happen
in this context of the session, but
it happens to
this
us
will occur during the
our
context of our daily lives, because we, more so than
besides
being therapists, are
we
also
are parents,
mothers,
sisters,
brothers,
friends. We
work maybe with
in other
areas where other
happen,
things might occur,
and
while we are
moving
transiting through these
contexts,
areas,
we
are being exposed to many situations,
to many different situations. So
and
the first thing we want to talk about is a little bit about what's the anatomy of our body, of our spirit, of our soul, to start mentioning what we are talking about when we talk about ourselves.
The presentators, I know that there's a lot of things that I want to go show very quickly that we've already mentioned, but I'm going to show a little bit here. No problem, we're connecting to the presentation. So in the meantime, I want to thank Dr. Rurito, who explained to us so clearly that from the quantum physics, what it is, what they are, the things that are behind AVT. and also Amalia, who brought us an entire set of, the history and the beginning of times from the original cultures that also allow us to learn and allow us to tell these stories. So let's go to the next slide. So this is adverse forces and how to take care of ourselves from them, how to protect ourselves. This is a concept that we try in medicine that has to do with taking care of the caregiver. It's very well seen that seeing through the patient, in that decree that we make, prioritizing always the patient's needs before ours, and that is very well, but in reality is that if we are not okay, it'll be very difficult to help others. So it's very important to care for ourselves as therapists, and it's because of this that I consider this very important, this self-observation. So knowing that our electromagnetic field, this that surrounds us, that makes us up, is originating from our brain activity that emits electrical waves, and this we can measure, quantify with devices in medicine. And from the heart, our emotions generate all these types of waves. So our electromagnetic field alongside our heart in combination, it creates together this field, this electromagnetic field. And it surrounds us, it makes us up, and it forces that all of my being, all of my cells vibrate and try to get comfortable and situate themselves in a certain way, in a determined way, in function with this vibration that is situating them. So many times we are not conscious of all of this. We might feel things that we don't know, we don't really care about. For example, I might wake up very well and happy in the morning, but then I have to go to work and I have to go, public transport, I get on and I'm kind of like, a little bit stuck in there because a lot of people travel. And that day that would have started out great ends up being very chaotic, generating maybe headaches, stomach aches, I'm nervous, and so I don't really try to think about why that is. The idea is to understand where is that limit of that we radiate in order to know that others also are like I am. So you have to, in that sharing, in that interacting, you have to mix fields, vibrational fields in one way or another. And in this way, you are seeing modifying my field in relation to the field that I have next to mine. But at the same time, this field is being affected as well through the electromagnetic field, through that electromagnetic field of the sun, of the earth, of all of the universe, because we are just one hologram of all that there is. So we have to start to maybe being aware and looking at our perception in these very subtle ways, because it is those that then will later materialize and condense in our physical bodies, and they will manifest as an emotion or as things that are physical things in matter. So let's go on to the next slide, where we will see a little bit about what is an electromagnetic field, an ideal electromagnetic field, which is the one that we see in the right to the slide, where it would see that this individual is in harmony. His mind starts, his heart thinks, it works and function of those thoughts that he irradiates an electromagnetic field that is harmonious, all at its surroundings. So it's different to the other slide that we saw to the side, that we see to the side here on the left, where we see a person that is not, we do not see him irradiating harmony. He is in a disorder. In a disorder, in what sense? Well, it might be a disorder from the mental because I have a lot of worries. I am ruminating. I am, having negative thoughts, ideas, or even just little seeds of these. Or maybe I am experimenting jealousy, and this also irradiates and connects within my heart, and that disharmony in the mind and heart generates this field, electromagnetic field, that is disordered, as you see. Tell me if you can see the slides. Great, you can see them. Okay, you can see them. The electromagnetic field of someone who is in disharmony is that figure that we see to the left. So we know from science that the parts in the world are associated and get close to each other. So we will attract to us that is syncing with what we are emitting, right? We attract in that same way that we emit. So something harmonious, electromagnetic will attract situations, sensations, emotions, persons that are in that situation, in that way of expressing. The people, when we are in and not harmonious, we will attract that type of situation. So sometimes it happens that we see that you have patients that have determined pathologies. And the question that we could ask ourselves is, okay, what is happening to me in relation to this? So this, I leave it as a question, but I will take this self-observation as a therapist that you will have to keep on doing. So there's a lot of work to be done that was already mentioned, so I won't go into that. I want to advance a little bit with the presentation, but just to mention the work of Nikola Tesla, in which he shows how the vibration, electromagnetic vibration, depending on what level of megahertz we have, the question will be healthy or it will not. So Tesla shows how, for example, people that are mad, nervous, suffering, have vibrational levels under the hertz. People that are at a harmonious field express and feel happiness. These people have vibrations over the 150 hertz, and therefore this assures, according to Tesla's work and other scientists, like for example Bruce Lipton, Korokov, they give us, let us understand that that you might have good health. So they say, they're asking if it's recording, so I'm going to keep on going. I don't want to stop with the comments, but
Recording
yes,
in
we
progress.
will record.
Thank you. So we'll try to imagine what happens in the context of a consult when we're with our patients. Certainly, this image we see here in the left with this orange figure and this gray figure, we see that both of them are touching and they're generating a change in the other. There's something of encountering with the other that generates an impact, a change in me, as the same way as I generate an impact in the other, in my patient. So as the doctor Roberto was saying yesterday in his conference, Roberto Blito, I'm sorry, he presented in Friday. The observer is going to be modifying what's being observed. So we as therapists will be modifying the field of our patients, but our patients will be modifying our field. This is back and forth. This is something that happens even if we're not conscious about it. So it could happen that after a work day or a long work day, or maybe an intense session, we might end up with migraine, with anguish or worried, and something happens and we don't understand really what's happening. So we could move forward in the slides. We have to bear this in mind, that it is an encounter between both of them, with both fields, and there's going to be a modification. So if I'm not we're not going to be an isolated observer, but I'm going to be observed too in this interaction. Part of this, we're going to be seeing it when we see Khodorkov's work, this Russian scientist that has developed a system in order to see and detect how it is our field and how it's affected. Because when we focus in ourselves, when we focus on being able to understand what's happening to us, and if our field is solid, it's harmonic, our system, brain, heart, it's working adequately, it will always be easier to recover from these situations or interactions. When the patient comes with pain, it will affect me because there's no way it's not gonna affect me. But if my field is healthy, if my field is strong, this is gonna pass quickly. I'm gonna be able to purify myself faster than if I'm not aware of this. Let's move to the next slide. So this interaction between both energy fields will generate a modification in the structure of the other. So I was remembering when Brito was talking about this dream of these big characters of the history. When I was preparing this class, one night I was saying, well, what kind of information can I use to this? And I woke up in the morning telling him, I say, oh, this is it. I saw an image of the structure of hemoglobin, which is a protein that transports oxygen to our body, and it's composed of 4 groups of globin that when they have this position in the beginning. So there's one globin alone, and it's going to be because they have to form between 2 more a structure of something that we call hemoglobin. But what happens when they get close? They start adopting a different structure. With the other electromagnetic field of this, another protein restructures and modifies the molecular structure, the disposition of the molecular of this globin. So this is the image I thought was great in the sense that we as therapists are not immune to the interactions with others. That is why I want to highlight again the care we need to have taking care of ourselves. we want to move forward. This is a Kirlian photo in which Korokov based his work that we're going to see in the next slide, because all of our electromagnetic field can be measured. So Korokov discovers that this Kirlian photo, if we put it in a computer with a specific software and we measure what is known as the visualization of the gas discharge that we constantly and permanently emit, this measurement can help us visualize through this software our vibrational field. So through the measurement of a electromagnetism that my hand is emitting, what it's actually measuring is electrons, photons. Again, I'm mentioning what Roberto Brito mentioned, the double slit experiment. I think it's vital to understand what happens in a deeper level when we work in TLP. When we put an observer, then we give an entity and we can locate a photon that it was previously potentially in that place. When it's potential, it only manifests as energy. This is kind of like string theory. When you observe that energy, it takes form, and it's this electron that is measured in these devices, and it helps us verify how our electromagnetic field is. So as I was saying in the beginning, how do we generate this electromagnetic field? It generates through our thoughts and emotions. So what quality of thoughts we're having, what quality of emotions we're feeling, because certainly the combination of my thoughts and emotions are going to end up generating this electromagnetic field that, as we see here in the yellow arrows, certainly they are separated. There is a part of the shine of my soul that it's missing, and we could relate this to the soul's fragmentation. So in the way we as therapists are healing ourselves, are incorporating more and more fragments of our soul from this life, from previous lives, more solid where our vibrational field is going to be at the time of working with others. So we're going to be reinforcing our immunity before all the other things that seem to be like external. So we're going to talk a little bit of larva, as Amalia was mentioning in her presentation. I'm going to move forward with the slides, please.
So
I bring another example of the scientific work
of this so that we can understand it as us, as people, in function to what we feel and what we think. Masaru Emoto is a Japanese man who talked about water, the structure of water, and tested them against different stimulus, written words, emotions, thoughts, music, and even more. He froze water, exposed water to these stimulus in petri dishes, and then he would record these water droplets, for example. And the molecules, not the molecules, how it freezes the water when it is stimulated through love. We see love, the word love there, and we see that it adopts the frozen water in a structure that is really harmonious. It's beautiful. It has a shine, it's just spectacular. We see that it assimilates the creation to be replicating the sacred geometry. So now that when we see this hate word, which is hate, we see how it affects the water. We see how it's erratic, it's disastrous. We see that this, if we bring it to our bodies, which is 80% water, we begin to think, what happens when we think in a negative way? What happens when we feel in a negative way? How do our cells respond that are in the majority composed of water against these thoughts? Can we go to the next slide, please? Because now, what I want us to see then is what things do we have to take into account of
interno nuestro y de lo que es externo, ¿sí? Porque las cosas que nos afectan directamente y las que en realidad luego generan toda esta estructura con agujeros, como vimos en el campo áurico, en esa placa de donde vimos el aura de...
When we saw when we see the structure, when there are missing pieces of part of my structure that are not healed, well, certainly it's a response to what I'm feeling internally or what I'm thinking. Fear, irony, sadness, cursing, all of those things that we do to ourselves or to others, that could be with our thoughts, with our emotions, with gestures, with attitudes, with thoughts, are going to make our feel healthy or sick, that it's strong or dull and sick. Later, we see that there are external things, but these external things can only affect us when the soil is good. So the external, and like we have mentioned before, as lost souls, we're going to share a little bit about the visions of the in regards to these external forces. It always are going to end up affecting someone that certainly is prepared or consciously or unconsciously to be affected by these forces. That who protects himself, it will hardly be affected by this. All these demons, negative forces, mekatrekim, which are those who are judging the judgers, the malachots, which are illnesses. There's an infinity of external things to us that could potentially affect us, but they can only affect us when we have certain weaknesses that make these forces penetrate my vibrational field. We're going to move forward with the slides. We're going to see then what we could do in order to take care of, protect ourselves from this. There's an important concept here that has to do with preparing the base, but not everyone. The speculation initiates after preparing the vase, to purifying ourselves, to having the firm intention of modify ourselves and be the best version of ourselves. So this means I have to take care of my thoughts and start selecting those that certainly take me to wellness, and not to rumination, jealousy, pain, or fearful situation in which I think about future things in a way that I'm working with myself must decrease. So this will ensure that my electricity that my brain is producing will be beneficial in the structuration of my electromagnetic field that will surround me. The emotions I must foster positive emotions, eliminating the negative ones. How can I do this? I need to work in myself. I need to keep healing myself. As long as I live, there will be things that I have to correct, that I have to heal. Well, no one can say, okay, I'm healed. I'm just dedicated to cure others, because this certainly is a problem of ego. And I will ask myself then, that what's behind this, that I do not allow myself to see myself, to heal this, that it's happening to me. It could be that in my sensation or in my feelings, I feel okay. That as I was showing in the beginning, in the way that we work with others, we will be affected. So in the long term or the short term, there are things that our patients are going to activate in ourselves, and we need to give this the necessary attention to heal ourselves and become the better version of ourselves, be better therapists, working ourselves, trying to speak well, not gossiping, not being negative in our comments, try to taking care of my words, meditating in order to, and that what I thought and what I think, it's in relation with what I say and with what I do. If I can have this coherence, this honestly in me, this certainly is going to be that my field is more solid and more strong in the way that I work and I do regression sessions to heal myself. This is going to make that my own fragment that are this scattered through the universe, I can recover and I can be better, because in the fragments of my soul are my own light. Other things I can do in order to be okay is to schedule time to drink water.
And I can bless it. I can bless the water. And in us in Judaism, we have a certain tradition for this. Before, we should bless that which we are to drink. Why? Because it's just a casuality that's there. It's not a coincidence. It had a series of events that had to have occurred in order for me to not have had to have a glass of water. So while we are conscious of this, and we can start to thank all of the things that we have, all of the things that happen to us, whether it is good in, quote unquote, or bad, quote unquote, then we will be able to be better people and better therapists, feeding ourselves in an adequate way. We have to be careful with this, because we have to be healthy in order to help. If we don't feed ourselves in an adequate way, what moral authority do we then have to tell our patients, right, the people that come to our offices, that they need to modify their diets, or their habits, like, for example, tobacco use? They already mentioned that in a very interesting work before, how this, the use of tobacco determines and ends up weakening our electromagnetic field, and the weakness of this field, what will it attract in the general way? So very correct in Karina explaining her clinical case, in which the person would attract souls that in a certain way were looking that she wanted to have, so that she had that tobacco use. So we are not immune to that. So we have to take care of ourselves, heal ourselves, breathing consciously. When I breathe, inhale, I also think that I have pure air. Before, we here in the Northern Hemisphere, we had a gas leak that was really, really big, apparently. There was like an attempt. So everyone that was affected from this, well, in a certain period, they couldn't breathe pure air, and that's horrible. So just to think that you have the opportunity to breathe, and that while we are incorporating from the cosmos that begins to be one with ourselves, that comes through and flows through our globins and those molecules that transport the oxygen and give us life. So in that way, we can begin to enrich with each gesture of our lives, and other things that we can do. For example, using 528 hertz. What is this? These are songs, special songs, music tones that generate a vibrate, that elevate. They make us push our electromagnetic fields and to vibrate in that frequency. So through patient and patient, we could, for example, put in our offices this type of music. In our waiting rooms, maybe before going to sleep, maybe listening a little bit of this music. So the kamot, tamots, they are all elements that we receive from Kabbalah. Here, this is a kamea. This is a blessing, a special blessing, a combination of some phrases from Psalms that they have coded the names of God into them. So this emits a radiation, a vibration that harmonizes my office, my workspace. The metaphysical protection, all of this that we think sometimes is, or maybe in the beginning, a little bit of a story, a little bit something very not so credible, but the scientific evidence that this works exists, that this is supported. It exists when I do it and I generate a modify that what I am observing, it might simply just have an effect. So opening the space, like for example, Amalia also, she shared so nicely, opening one, in a shamanic way, or in your own way that you can prepare energetically your workspace. That really does help us to be in a better environment. We might be able to turn on incense, smoke work. So whatever you want to make your own. Because sometimes we might copy models and things like that and traditions, but we don't really feel it. We don't feel it from our hearts, because it just doesn't really connect with me. Maybe shamanism doesn't really, just doing something from Shansanman, that's fine. Be honest with oneself, with yourselves, and try to find a way of opening your own space to have your own protection, but that it's personalized, that it's of your own, that it's your special touch. Although we can obviously also repeat and copy others. Scripture from Psalms also allows us to help and heal and protect our space. One more slide, please. Here I have some examples, as I just showed. Here we have these other examples of ameas, also servulot, which are special pictures that contain an intention. And this, I want to just say something. There's many things like this online. Kabbalah is trendy right now. So I feel like these kameas, these things, these have to be personalized. They have to have your intentional energy to be used. I cannot copy and just paste. And also these things that we do, the planets that we see, which, the things that are being said in Psalms are the ones that you can say, because that they have a purpose. And that way we can get to know a little bit about and apply. But the important thing is that there exists many ways to take care of ourselves. Let's advance. I think this is the last slide. I want to thank the Achavip for the invitation. Thank you. I don't know if maybe there's a space for questions. I didn't really want to take a lot of time up, so because I know that we're a little bit late on things. So if there's any questions, any comments that you want to ask, I would love to respond and share.
Vivi. Nos recuerda que somos un fragmento
It reminds
del
us
universo con
that we are really
tremendo
just one with the
potencial creador,
universe,
y nos hace muy responsables de nuestros pensamientos,
and it makes
de
us very
nuestras
responsible for
palabras,
our
de nuestras
thoughts and
acciones.
words and
Tenemos
actions.
algunas preguntas para ti.
We have some words for
¿Cómo se
you.
puede beneficiar
How
una
can we
persona
benefit
del
a
hecho de estar en
person
pareja para sanarse y
when
evolucionar?
she is in a relationship in order to heal?
Perfecto. ¿Cómo se puede beneficiar una persona
How can we benefit someone
del hecho de estar en pareja
from the
para
fact of
sanarse y
being in a relationship in order to heal? Do you mean like being in a love relationship or a work relationship? Well, if it's in the case of a work relationship, in the case of, for example, a therapist, because the interpreter is also learning from the experience to the people that are coming to the office. So we find and we see that what is happening to the person is also happening to me, and I haven't been able to see it until now. This person is helping me heal myself. So there I even have a benefit, right? I noticed something that I didn't see before. And at the case of a love relationship, it's the same thing, because the other will also be working and mirroring things within me that I will have to work on. So what has to be very clear is that in no relationship there has to never be dependency. We arrive to the world alone and we will leave alone, but we are animals that want to be in group, right? We tend to group, and that's the way it is, and we need it to be like that. But my health does not depend on the existence of that other in particular. I have to do my part and the other person his part or her part. So we have to try to do, unattach from the person, but enrich our connection. In what sense? What are they showing me that I have to heal, improve, or what can I give that I have that this person is showing? And in another way I couldn't see before. I don't know if I responded to the question, but that's just like a going back and forth.
Respecto a algunas acciones que se conocen como para protegerse, por
Do we have any actions in regards to protect, like for the belly button or
tomar agua solarizada?
taking water?
Sí, bueno, esto es un poquito de lo que hablé, el agua programada, por ejemplo.
Well, this is what we talked about, the programmed water. I can program it and I can, leave it at the sun, under the sun. I can also use crystals or gems, quartz, or I can simply just put my intention between my hand and just giving an intention, putting it through my heart, and feel when it transmits to the water. And when I feel like the water has taken that programming that I gave it, then I can then drink the water. And in that case that I have, or whatever it is that you might be drinking. And now the belly button, the same thing. When you feel like there is particular parts in the body where the energy can penetrate, then yes, you need to do a type of ritual or act in order to protect yourself and heal yourself, and then do something with that, because many times it can happen that we feel like energy kind of sticks to us on our back. We feel it, right? And now, yes, what is going on to the energy in my back that is permeable to these energies? So what I would like to clarify is that sometimes we have this idea of wanting to kind of see down our vibrational field, and that's impossible because it's fluid. It's something that it mixes permanently with the others' fields. It's always influencing, the vibrational field from the earth, like Hartman, it really states that although I might be alone in a room, depending in what point of the room I am, because it's being touched and penetrated from these fields. So I have to get to know these things. I have to understand these things in order to take the correct precautions.
Queríamos dejarte invitada a la mesa
We
redonda
wanted to invite you to the round
para
table
que podamos seguir conversando
so that we can
temas
keep
de
talking
energía y
these energy
y
topics.
además quería
And also,
compartir con
I
nuestro
wanted to
público
share
de tu libro,
with the public your
Caminos,
book,
Atajos y Senderos. Vamos a ver si nos permite
Roads,
hacer.
Shortcuts,
Sí, gracias. Ese es el primero de los
Roads and
libros.
Shortcuts. That's the first of the books, yes. And I just came out, the second one, it came out a little while ago, where there is a special section of how to open our space or take care of it, purify it, and how to take care of ourselves as well.
Maravilloso. Muchas gracias,
Great.
Vivi.
Thank you, Vivi.
Y nos vemos en un ratito más.
And we'll see each other in a little bit.
Adiós.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.